Good morning. My head is cut off. Some seriously deep breaths into, maybe this is better. We'll see. Blessings, 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 blessings. Thank you so very much for being with me today. It's very bright in the studio, very bright on the couch this morning, and I welcome it in. I welcome it in because I feel like we are just so coming into a new aspect of ourselves, a new shaft of light, right? New rays of light are awakening within us, are beaming into us and through us and out, reaching all people, places, things, and then returning back to us. And I just love that. And I love recognizing it right now. I love being in a place of being through, right, on the other side of everything we've all collectively been going through over these last months. And I feel that there is this beautiful exhale that is ready to happen. So I don't know if you have found your exhale yet, but I welcome you. I welcome you to your exhale. And I also welcome you to 4D Trinity. Everyone, I am Tuesday May Thomas, and thank you so very much for being with me this morning, for joining this beautiful community. Every week I go on to YouTube and there are more and more and more subscribers, and I'm so very grateful. We are a beautiful community of curious searchers, of light workers, of really heart space wise beings, and I feel very honored, very grateful to be a part of it. And so thank you everyone for all of your subscriptions, your new subscriberships, and thank you of course to all of my regulars and everyone who supports me in all of the ways you do and supports this channel. Really, you're supporting me, but ultimately you're supporting these teachings. And as you know, everything we talk about here is a teaching. It's a teaching for you, it's a teaching for me, and it's a way that we learn how to practice and embody self-mastery, to practice and embody self-love, right? And we do this of spiritual growth on our journey of learning what sovereignty is, on our journey of opening our hearts ultimately. And we know that when we open our hearts, what we are doing in effect is we are coming into that space and that spaciousness of knowing thyself. And when you know yourself, nothing can mess with you. Nothing. And when you know yourself, you understand everything. And I mean everything. You get it. Because you have explored it within yourself first. Everything on the outside, and we've heard this a million times, and here we go again, everything that we experience on the outside of us is a reflection, a divine reflection of that which resides within. There is no separation. And as we learn how to sit in that space, feel our pain and feel our wonder and feel our beauty and feel our grace and feel love, to feel what it feels like to heal, to feel what it feels like to forgive, to practice non-judgment. All of these things bring us into a space of knowing thyself. And when you know thyself, you know everything else. You understand everything else. It is easier to grasp ideas. It is easier to grasp notions. It is easier. It comes with great ease and grace, your ability to feel compassion for others, because you've been there yourself and you understand what it takes to heal your life. You understand what it takes to get through the dark night of the soul. You understand what it takes to truly soften your heart and love yourself first and foremost. And that's powerful. That is a powerful trajectory to move from unconscious to conscious, to move from that place that is at once asleep into being wide awake, is wonderfully potent, is powerful. And so this is the journey we are on together. And I'm excited to speak to you today about our topic, past life portals. I have 0 notes. I have no show board notes. We're just going to shoot from the hip today. And again, I want to say, and I don't even think I've even said it, so here we go. This is 4D Trinity. This is a little show that the universe inspired me to bring about last October. Wow, we're almost at a year, and I don't think I've missed even 1 week, right? Today's the 39th show, so we have 11 more. I think that's going to sync up, right? September, I think it was October 19th or towards the end of October that we had our very first 4DT. And I can't tell you, yes, I can. That is such a funny thing, right? That saying, I can't tell you how much I love you. Yes, you can. You know, and I'll tell you how grateful I am for this platform, because I am a speaker and I am a teacher and I am a facilitator. And to have this space that we can come together, that we can shoot the shit, you know, spiritually, metaphysically, multidimensionally, about ourselves, about this path of being in a body in this 3rd dimension, while we unfurl, explore, and grow into our multidimensionality. And so I'm very, very grateful to be with you, to be here now, and in all the ways that we share. This is 4D Trinity, and here, what we do, you see, is that we learn how to heal our mind and our bodies, right? That's just a constant thing that we are in constant reverence to, bringing those aspects of self into alignment. We understand as the mind comes into alignment, then the emotional body, the emotional aspect of you can find rest, can find balance. And it is when those aspects are in alignment and gently balanced that we have access to heaven on earth, that we have access to 4D consciousness, which is living from the space of the heart. Yeah, so all of that work that we've all been doing individually and collectively with regards to practicing self-love, exploring our healing paths, listening to our hearts and our truths, and having the courage to follow through, well, it's massive. It's massive. And I'm grateful we have this space to meet together. Thank you so much for dropping a line in the comment box. Lachlan, blessings. Oh, Lachlan, okay, you're totally psychic. Aren't we all? I don't know if this is going to be the TED Talk, but it's interesting that you said that, because I have actually applied for a TED Talk. Pardon me 1 second, everyone. For some reason, when I get here, I get the watery eye thing. Just a little bit, you know? And other than that, throughout the day, I don't have the watery eye. And then I go on 4DT. I don't even get it when I do the tarot, but for some reason, this makes the waters flow. But it's interesting you say that, because I have applied for one that I did not get. I think it was earlier this year, but I'm in the process of applying for another one. So I'm very grateful that you feel that there's a resonance, that you Just you're picking up on that, Lachlan. So I receive it and I bless it and I say thank you very much. Blessings. Hey, Mia. Lachlan is psychic. I watch his readings. Awesome. Brilliant. So good. Yes, so welcome and blessings, everyone. I really feel that this past life notion is so huge. And as I said, I don't have any notes prepared. So we are going to shoot from the hip. We're going to channel in what is the divine conversation for this day for the highest good of all, because perhaps we can do a show that would just go on and on and on for a minimum of 30 years on this topic. But I've already meditated this morning and called in, you know, to be a channel for those messages, for those topics, those aspects of this that are appropriate and in alignment with the integral, authentic voice that I am, the space that I hold in this chapter. We, all of us here, you know, have a piece. We have a piece of the puzzle. We have a page of the book. And even if you write full books like me, you know, my book is still a page of the greater book that we all bring together. And we understand this. We know that as we illuminate, as we activate those aspects within, that the light gets turned on for all of us. So we take a breath. And I think about this very interesting notion to sort of cast us into that realm. You know, this idea of reincarnation. There are people that I know in this life that want nothing to do with reincarnation, that it doesn't do anything for them, right? And there's other people that are like, oh yeah, you know. And it's interesting because for years growing up, there was such a familiarity with this place, with this plane, and also an already activated tool set in that being the psychic sensitivities, in that being the ability to communicate telepathically, to see ghosts, to have communication with beings from other dimensions, to experience telekinesis, which I did as a child. And, you know, all of these kinds of things were just like natural. I thought we all were just like, oh, this is what we do here. Like, I didn't really know that it was not a select thing, but that it wasn't everyone. And it was only as I grew up and started to read books and explore that I realized, like, oh, this is like not a club, but this is for those who choose it, right? And so there's this sense of when we meet others, when we have this collective, when we have this community, that it's awesome because we get to share all these ideas and these notions. And again, because you have a piece and I have a piece and she has a piece and he has a piece, we turn each other on. Remember in this week's tarot, which I'll come back and I'll put some links up above later. But in this week's tarot, we're talking about how, you know, all these eclipses and all these planets retrograde and all this stuff. And now that we've turned a corner, we are calibrating, and the DNA within you is calibrating, and the DNA within me is calibrating. And as our individual DNAs become calibrated, what's happening on a larger mode is we are creating one big strand of DNA. Which I love that idea. I'm like, oh, thanks. Thanks, universe, for that, just that notion, right? And that's like that we are the worldness. That's that like interconnection. We are one, whether you're ready for it or not, whether you think of it that way or not. If you're turned on in that heart center to whatever degree, and to that degree, right, your DNA will calibrate. And from that degree, it will calibrate with those people, places, and things that are of that like calibration. And so we start to neuronet, right, a new grid of this 4D. And really, it's already here, yet it's becoming more and more dense with light, with the light of us, with our consciousness. So One thing that came to me in this morning's meditation about this whole reincarnation idea is, there are different ideas about reincarnation. And if we're going to talk past lives at all this morning and how they are portals, we think about reincarnation and we think about, well, we kind of have to be okay with that, or to have a consideration of that in order for us to be able to look back, right, on past lives in the first place. And let's zoom out for a moment and get galactic here. And I appreciate if you have comments, I always go back and we read and we have that conversation. So I will come back and I will read them as we go along. So thank you for the conversation and the communication. I dig it. I dig it and I appreciate it. So on a galactic level, what do you get in your meditations? Where are you from? Some people know, right? Like some people are like, oh, I'm totally a Palladian. I'm totally a this. I'm totally from the land of Mu or whatever. And some people are just like, even if you believe in reincarnation or past life, sometimes you're just like, I haven't got a clue. What's that all about? And I'm kind of one of those people that I don't have a clue, but also I'm okay with not knowing. I feel that there's a part of, I think I may have made an agreement of like, let's just take that memory out because I don't need it to distract me from whatever it is that I'm here to do and be and embody in this lifetime. I don't need to be consumed with where I'm from. And not that it's a good thing or a bad thing or a right thing or a wrong thing. And perhaps it might happen later today or next month or in 10 years that I'll be like, oh, and it'll be time for me to remember that for whatever it is I am to do here. But for up until this point of my life, all I know is that I've been here a lot. I know I've been other places too, and I'm sharing this with you, and I invite you to be in consideration of your journeys, right? Through time and space, and through the dimensions of this galaxy. Because we know, right, that the scientists say, and there's this notion that is outside of our mainstream school science books that, everything is contained in a single atom. And if you could imagine that there's one single atom containing everything in all of the universe, and then how that is multiplied, and that there's, galaxies within galaxies within galaxies, then there is an infinite amount of realms and worlds and places that we could be from, that we could have traveled and explored through many different lifetimes. There are inner worlds, right? Even in this world, whether you believe it is hollow, whether you believe it is flat, is round, is a triangle shape, this planet, doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to you if it matters to you, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These things are just a vehicle for how we will enjoy the journey while we're here, right? For you to bring more of your pieces of the puzzle and pages of the great book into being. And the diversity of it is juicy and it is beautiful. Because is there really a wrong and a right? I think we all have the ability to have any notion about anything that we feel that is congruent, that is in alignment, integral, and authentic. And that is your truth. That is how we have multi-dimensions. That is how we have quantum timelines that are operating, in a fashion all at the same time. And it's just a matter of where we place our consciousness and our energy, that is where we will find ourselves. And so we've got a lot to work with. And sometimes I know as this comes in, as we awaken spiritually, it's kind of overwhelming. So we learn to breathe, right? We learn to meditate and to detach from even those kinds of notions of getting too emotionally involved. Although there could be emotions involved. the great dichotomy of this human existence. But I guess the point that I want to make as we we're starting out and we're going to zoom in is, have you been not only here before on this planet? And if you have been, how many times do you think, like just for fun, right? But also, there are habitable planets even in this solar system. Now, we're not taught this in school. Of course we're not. But just imagine there are habitable planets like Venus, like Mars, for example. And there's an inner part of these planets, these inner sanctums, right? Where the geodes and the crystals and the plasma beings live. And I know we're kind of getting like woo here but it's all woo, right? But also us through different incarnations of this soul, of this aspect of soul that you are, that I am, right? It's almost like Disneyland, this solar system, where it's like, ooh, I'm going to get a ticket to Mars. I'm going to go on the Mars train, you know? And then you become that being that inhabits that planet in that way for those experiences or whatever to happen to align you with what it is that is your soul's trajectory, and vice versa for whatever planet. So we think about this galactic, and even those, like I was saying, I have friends that totally have recall of being from like other places. And it's interesting, in the spiritual community, there's this thing that's like, I want to go home. There's this memory for many people of going home. I don't have that. Do you have that? And it's interesting because moons ago, several months ago, probably 4 to 6 months ago, and I'll come back and I'll put a link up top. There's a 4D Trinity we did that is called, and it's really powerful. I watched it again after we had recorded it, and it made me cry. But it's called, What If This Is Your Last Incarnation on the Earth? And it's interesting because in the comments, some people had mentioned this idea of yes for them, and also that this may be the last incarnation and that they get to go home. And I think that's interesting because I don't have that. I feel that on one hand, there is no home. Sorry, not sorry. But now is the home, is where that's how I straddle the NOWOSPHERE, is by being in the now and not longing for somewhere to be after this place. So anyway, are you galactic? Do you have galactic memory, right? The Mayans, the Aztecs, the Siberian shamans, like, if you've ever done psilocybin or ayahuasca or been even, you don't even need to take a substance, but even if you've had a travel in an isolation flotation tank, or this kind of a thing where your consciousness can be altered, you may, right, connect and tap into those aspects of yourself where you've either been here before and or you've been there before. And so I'm interested, and we're going to have a look at the comments before we go on. And I'm so grateful. Mia, I never had a clue and don't want to dig into that exactly. Don't want to be distracted. But I met someone from before who reminded me of one of my prior locations on Earth. Okay. This is, there is, and then so that was Mia, and then Lachlan says, there is something about Calypso, and I thought about how this might be final, indeed. Calypso, this is my first time hearing that term, Lachlan. Give us a brief line or two on that, would you, darling? I appreciate that. Or are you meaning the apocalypse? I don't know. I feel the apocalypse is like an inner. That's like the inner, the tower card. But anyway, we'll come back. So this idea, okay, of being here before. Now, in this life, having many different paths, what happens is, as I was speaking at the very beginning of our offering here this morning, is this aspect of, as we learn to heal our lives, as we learn to love thyself, know thyself, what can happen is that sense of familiarity. And something that came, again, in this morning's meditation was, and this is an idea, this is a notion, I connect with God, with love, with light of the universe, and I invite that to speak through me, right? To share messages, to give downloads that we may chew on and be with. And as always, just take what feels right to you. I'm not here to push any agenda. I'm here because, honey, I'm having fun, and this is what I do by default. Even if there was no one ever watching these videos, I would be making these videos just because it's what has to happen through me. It's the nature of me. So, okay, now that we got that cleared, this idea of reincarnation and of everything becoming familiar, and what I was getting in that meditation was, if we are on any kind of a spiritual path in this life, then we have been here before. It's just an idea to chew on, especially if these are new ideas to you. But if you're on any kind of an enlightened, spiritual, awakening, self-healing, self-love path, whatever it is, that this is not your first rodeo. This is not your first time here on this planet. And it feels that there are these levels that we can enjoy being here, right? There's, you know, I mean, and for weeks we were on the Matrix and the Red Pill and the Blue Pill and the Neo and the Morpheus and all that. And I mean, those were really fun shows. So please make sure you check them out if you have not yet, if you're interested in that. But there's this sense of, with regard to that, of like, you know, that we can come and be status quo of just like, enjoy this body and enjoy the food and enjoy, you know, good life, enjoy the sensual aspects. Now, granted, we can also have the experiences of the violence, of the, you know, harm, of trauma, of all these things as well. Yet there's this idea that we know that coming in, we know the chance we're going to take, right? But we also, I feel, understand on a higher level as our higher self before we come into this 3D life that it is an illusion. Whatever the violence or the trauma or the as the Buddhists say, the suffering may be, that it's really not real. But we forget that, and then we come in, and along our path, perhaps we remember the illusion, the veils, the Maya of this world. And it is learning how to, again, through healing. I firmly believe that practicing healing your life is enlightenment. I mean, that's the path. You know, we can study all these sacred texts and do our yoga and meditate and absolutely all of that, absolutely. And you loving you on a day-to-day basis, you really getting into the nitty-gritty and healing the pain of the past, the trauma, the whatever it is, those memories, those timelines that keep you bound to those versions of yourself. As you heal that, you become an alchemist. You become your own master. You become your own shaman. Whatever name you want to give it, right? Whatever hat, right? But there's a badassery in that. There's one being able to face one's pain and shadow or dark side, right? We said it last week. It's like the way out is in, right? We go to people are like, get me out of this world. I hate this world, you know? And usually in my experience of working with clients and people for almost 20 years, it's like that's when someone's really walking in pain. And once that they have released that pain and healed and made peace to whatever degree, then it's like this planet, this earth is not so hard to be in. Now, let's stay on track here with the past life though. The God phone. The God phone! God phone. Hello? Oh God. How many times a day do people say that? God's all like, constantly. Okay. God says hi. Blessings. Blessings. Yes, we're talking about past lives. God's all rolling the eyes. Why are you rolling your eyes? Okay, God's all like, because that's just an idea. That's just a story. For our 3D-ness, is that like a real thing? Okay, God's saying that reincarnation, past lives is just a story. Ah, but that's nice. It's a story that we can use as a vehicle to help heal our lives while we're here in a body. Yet there's no beginning and no end. We simply are. Wow. Okay, God, drop in the knowledge. Yes, but for the sake of this show, I would love to. I would love to read from my book. Total past lives. Total past lives. Yes. Okay, we will. Thank you, God. This one right here, the Reiki Apprentice. Yeah. Okay, will do. Namaste. Blessings. So much love. God says bye and hi and all that good juicy stuff. So yes, we're going to read in a little bit some of my book because there's reference to it. So past lives, you know, I remember the first time I learned a technique called access consciousness. Very powerful technique, said to be channeled through Gary Douglas via Rasputin of Siberia. If you read my book, The Reiki Apprentice, there's a lot of channeling of Rasputin of Siberia with some amazing metaphysical, multidimensional healing tools that you learn along with me as I learn to heal my life with Reiki and with those tools in my book along my story. And it's even said that, anyway, that the access consciousness is something that is said to have been passed on through Rasputin. And this is the form of healing. This is the healing technology that he used, it said, back in the day when there are memories of this actually being a being here. And that it was so profound, and it was kind of an underground thing, because back then they were like, it's witchcraft, or, you know, he has special powers, we have to put him to death. And they tried to kill him over and over and over again. And he's just like, boop, I'm still here, boop, I'm still here. But he used these, and I don't know where he got it from. I haven't researched it back far. If you know, let me know. But there's indentations on our skulls. And there are very specific hand mudras almost that you make on the skull to create connection and activate these points on the face and on the skull that realign your mental continuum in a way that brings about balance and healing, and that really clears the grids, clears the matrix labyrinth that you hold in polarity. It brings it into a non-dual realm to the degree that you are able to walk with that frequency, and it's a whole new world. And anyway, the point of this, what is the point of this? Well, number one, I totally have a thing with Rasputin. Like, I feel like I know him, and here he comes through my teacher. My teacher is a trance channel, and one of the beings that she channels is Rasputin. So there's a familiarity, and of course now, not of course now, but I've lost track of why I was even telling you that. It will come back. It is very, very interesting though, because as we, whatever means we use, whether it's access technology, whether it's our Reiki, our prayers, our going to the shamans and all these things, doing our medicines, right? All of those stories, all of those parts of us, as they become healed, then we are free to just be here and to have that experience of being free here, of being sovereign here, without those pains of the past. And it's in that unraveling of those stories of the pain that, in my experience, we come into a continuum that invites us to consider how we've been here before, who we've been here before. So who do you know here now that you know from before? And again, if you're on any kind of a spiritual path at all in this life, consider that this is not your first life. It doesn't mean you have to know everything about who you've been in the past. It just means that you've been here before. Just consider this as a notion. You've been here before. And to the extent of wherever you're at in your spiritual studies is the extent, quite possibly, of where you've left yourself off at your last landing. It doesn't have to work like that, though. You could have been, right, one of the Dalai Lamas. You could have been someone very high and enlightened in that way, in that worldly way, and have chosen to not remember all that you had learned so that you could come back and be present for others, or to do your own. You're not done, right? Although they say when you're enlightened that you would come back and be a bodhisattva, that you would just come back, perhaps, to just be an enlightened being in the presence of others, to just hold space for others for that. Again, the thing is to quest within what is real to you. Because in my experience, when we have that connection, that's the whole point. Thank you. Thank you, my muses, my angels. They finally brought the point back. When we have that connection, that's the portal. When you recognize someone from before and you have that deja vu with them, it opens up a portal through which you don't have to go through, but that you can explore, which seems to be of great interest to us in general. I'll speak for us as a very general way. But these are these interesting things where you realize that you are multidimensional. You're not just bound to this one body in this one place. And so these explorations of these aspects of self can be very powerful, because as we go through those portals, as I understand that I know you from before, and even if you don't think that you know me from before, or you have no idea that I think I know you from before, that medicine for me on my side of the court is what is going to quite possibly help me understand and heal other parts of my life now, in the body, in the world that I experience now. So what I was talking about, all that Rasputin stuff. So I remember when I did my training for the level 1 of access consciousness, of learning how to place the hands on the skull, which is such a powerful tool. A couple of you, we've done it together. I remember that during that training, and we were in it, woo, we were high, energy high, you know, like getting into it. And the facilitator said, "What are you experiencing right now?" And one of the gals in the class, she said, "I feel like I'm going back in time." And the teacher said, "Okay, well, where are you? Where are you?" And she goes, "I am a rock on this planet before civilization." And I remember being like, ooh, like I was in my thing, doing my thing, but you know, it was an open conversation, so I could hear, but I was like in my zone. And I was like, oh. And as soon as she said that, it was like, all of this stuff started downloading. And you know, that's how it happens. Again, we're each other. You might wear a different color lipstick than I do. But in that sense that we're one, and when one of us gets something, when one of us like gets it for whatever that is for you, as there may be resonance for me, it can help me become aware of those aspects that will help serve me on that breadcrumb trail, on that adventure. It's an adventurer's quest, right? And all this stuff, you don't have to even think that past lives exist. You don't have to go there. But if you do, it's this like exciting whole other, like beyond the veil journey. And you start to realize that you have family here from before. you begin to realize that if you've been here over and over and over again, this woman said she was a rock. And I remember like that really tapped me. And it allowed me to explore in my imagination, but also in my heart. Well, hold on here. Because at that point, I had already had a resonance that I've definitely been a whale several times in the ocean. I've definitely been, you know, all sorts of animals, been all sorts of different types of beings, a human being, you know, different races and colors, ethnicity, cultures from around the world. You know, and everyone, like I'm a yogi, right? I've been teaching yoga. Again, the same, all of my, if you read my book, The Reiki Apprentice, you'll get that notion. I've been doing yoga since, like properly, since I've been 21. And anyway, it's just been a huge part of my path and a beautiful way that I get to share with students, besides all of the other gifts of the Reiki and all the teachings. And again, why am I talking about yoga? It'll come back. It'll come back. So there's these interesting things, though, of when we think about that we have been here before. Oh, that's what I was going to say about yoga is, you know, in the yoga community, all the yogis are like, oh, we have to go to India. We have to go and we have to, you know, you go to India if you're a yogi, right? And you do all these things. You go to the Ganga and you, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, no. I'm all, honey. I remember the first time someone said that to me, I got this download and I hadn't, like the physical version of me who has a mind, who like thinks about things and quantifies things, didn't make this up. It was like I got this download when someone's like, oh my God, you're totally a yogi. Or when are you going to India? Everyone goes to India. You got to go to India, right? And I remember feeling this like, not resistance, but this neutral pause. And then I got this download and I was like, oh, that's the truth. It was like my higher self was like beaming me down some info that was basically saying that I've been in India so many times, and I've been an Indian in India so many times, and I can go back there. Yet whatever I've needed to get from there throughout those other past lives, I've collected, and it's in the memory. It's in the memory, in my energy vehicle, not only in my cellular body that I've decided to bring with me, but it's in my Taurus field. It's in the personalized version of my consciousness that I walk with, whatever those teachings, those lessons, those blessings are, those healings are, those experiences are. And I don't really need to, I have no call. If my heart says, okay, it's time to go now, of course, I will honor that. I will consider it. But I'm like, no, I don't need to go there in this life. So that's like these ideas of how these past lives work, that I feel that we are recycled souls, you know, on whatever planet, whatever version of the self, if you will, that we can be and contain at any given time, space. And if we think multiple realities, while you're here being a human on this planet, perhaps there's a version of you being a Venusian on Venus. That's a portal in itself, right? So these past lives are this continuum. And perhaps we get to do many lives at once, as we were just saying. And perhaps it's like, well, this time around I'm going to go to Earth, and then we die, right? And then we go into the white light, and maybe perhaps we're like, and now I'm going to go to Mars. And then after a couple of rounds around a few other planets or solar systems or galaxies, I'll come back and do this Earth thing again, this human thing. But so we accumulate the memory, we accumulate the consciousness, we accumulate all the spiritual work, everything that we've been doing, that we've healed, that we've amassed, right? They call it karma, up until we're back in a body again. And then we're like, oh, I get these lessons. Oh, I get this family. Oh, you know, I get this abundance or this poverty or this, you know, illness or this abundant health, whatever it is. And so these are our learning curves, but also you know, in these spiritual traditions, there are many teachings that say we choose our parents, we choose our lessons, we choose these things. And really, it's up to you what you think about that. Ultimately, if you have a sense, do you have a sense that you know others from before? I know for me, as I started really sitting with this notion, I realized how deep the connection really is. And I realized how many times I've been here. And I realized, like my friend who did that training, this was in 2001, that I too have been a rock on this planet when all there was rock and gaseous things exploding. And I too have been, you know, a stardust, like you, chances are. And yes, the whale, and yes, the giraffe, and yes, the blade of grass, and the butterfly, and the cat, and the horse, and all these things, and the several, multiple hundreds of thousands of millions of potentially different versions of a human being. And so this recycled soul thing, we just keep coming back, right? As long as we're coming back. And so if there's a thread to this, which I believe there is, chances are we know each other from before. Especially those individuals where there is that natural alignment, that natural, where you are natural, where you are your true self in their presence, where there is a natural knowing, an attraction of energy, an alignment of friendship, of kinship. And as these relationships come into the light and you start to explore them and sit with them, they will show you. And as my path was, I'm going to read your comments here in just a moment, as my path was, which we're going to read here from as the God Phone asked us to, a little bit from my book, The Reiki Apprentice, regarding this. The moment that I started really looking in that direction with regards to the past lives, and I really started saying yes, feeling the truth, that in fact I have been here over and over and over and over again, I started recognizing like almost everyone. I was like, oh shit, I know him and her and her and him and him and her and her and her and him and him. And think about all your lovers, honey. And even if you're celibate, the people that you've even had a fancy for, even if you weren't able to do anything physical or intimate with them in the 3D, you know, like, how many beings do you know here from before? And it's just a question. It's not a game. It's not like you win if you have more than 5, you know, but it's just a very interesting aspect. And the whole reason why we're talking about this today is because it brings us closer. When we start to recognize our family, if you will, our galactic family, it brings us closer into alignment with our purpose here this time around, which seems to be a big theme for humans, is like this finding their purpose thing. This is like a thing. This is like a huge grid that it seems to be this holy grail. And we have perhaps forgotten that, you know, just the experience of being human in a body on this planet is the exact purpose of it all. Yet, as I write in my other book, How to Manifest with the Law of Vibration, within that complex stability of that idea, there is a truth that we have, right? It seems that at some point, even if it doesn't feel that it's there yet, or maybe at a certain period of your life, it wasn't activated, yet there are callings, there are truths in your heart, visions that you came in with, that you put there for you, Imagine when you could see as the one soul consciousness, not in a body, before you came back in. If you've been here before, where you were like, okay, quantum infinite possibilities, yet I'm aware that what I get to bring in and bridge in this lifetime is XYZ. And if I shall allow myself to go that path, the XYZ, those seeds of truth within my heart are going to lead me along my highest trajectory of exploring truth, of coming one with love, and of being and embodying and channeling and sharing that in the world. And there's nothing wrong if you don't, and there's nothing right if you do. But there's this sense, right? So that when we come in and we're in this body, that there are these seeds of truth. And perhaps we can consider that being the purpose, the calling, I like to call it. It's the calling. And these are not visions that you made up as the 3D version of you, the personality of Tuesday, of Lachlan, of Mia, of Will, of whoever it is. This is the version of you that is, right? Not what you think needs to be done from your 3D perspective. So these are seeds that you came in with. And when we get to that point where we're like, whoa, I'm supposed to be an aeronautical engineer, right? And that excites you, and you know it's your truth, and you know some shit about that. Like, just naturally. Why do you know stuff about that? Perhaps because that's been a line, a thread of work that you've been involved in lifetimes before this, and so you have a natural propensity for it. Sure, it could be in your astrology and that you have other things that serve you in being skilled at whatever it is. Yet, where your joy is, and I know we hear this all the time, it's very Oprah, but it's true, baby, right? The simplest truths are simple. You know, it's that joy, it's that follow your joy. It's like once you get over all the pain and all the stuff, the healing, know thyself, then you can chill. Then you can relax and let all good be added unto you. Because you're chilling and you're vibing as your truth and you're honoring that. And then so once we get through all that healing, it's almost like, okay, now I have this energy. Now I have this clarity, this insight to actually hear and to at once be at one with the bubblings of this sense of calling, of following it now, is what weaves the myth, of this 4D. I digress. Not really, because it's all connected, but I do want to read a lot here. So let me go back here for a moment. Okay. Oh yes, Calypso. After being given Jove's message from Mercury, Calypso unfortunately has to relinquish Odysseus and send him onward to his home of Ithaca and to continue his adventures, keyword home. The goddess Calypso is represented by the dolphins. If that brings peace of mind to your love for being near the ocean. Thanks for your time, Tuesday. Wow. You know, it sounds, are you an astrologer? I'm sorry, I didn't realize, I guess I have to go and check out your videos, Lachlan. So are you an astrologer? There's this book that I love, gifted from my mom, Making the Gods Work for You, by Carolyn Casey. And anyway, she's badass astrologer. I love astrology. I'm not an astrologer, but I love astrology and I dig it. But she breaks down a lot of those those like mythical kind of stories to help us understand the qualities of the planets. So thank you. Thank you, Lachlan. It's all information, you know, and we're just digesting, processing, allowing it to further guide us along our way, right? So I'm going to read here, as we get into this, from my book, The Reiki Apprentice. All of my links are down in the Show More box. I have this book, my new book, which I'll be launching properly soon, How to Manifest with the Law of Vibration. It's on paperback right now on Amazon. And this one is on Kindle and Amazon, and I'm getting there, right? That's part of my thing in this next year, is to have all my books on Barnes & Noble, on Kobo for my Canadian. I know we have a Canadian viewership here. at this channel, and I'm so grateful. So grateful for all of you. Thank you so much. I really, truly bless this space, and I feel blessed that we have this space together to share. So anyway, I'm working on getting everything, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Amazon, iBooks, you know, all that stuff. And I am one person at this time doing that, although to bump things up as everything expands in my world. Yet for the sake of all this sort of 3D book stuff, currently I get to do it all by myself. Until someone, the right person comes along and says, I got you, sister, come on, let's get to work. So it's time consuming, but I love it. So here we go. So I'm gonna read a couple of things here. In this book, there's a lot in this book. It's a memoir, it's my story of how I learned, how I've come into where I'm at now with the language that we talk, and really how I learned to heal my life and love myself and love you unconditionally, which is badass, right? Love is fierce. Love is fierce. So I'm on the mountain in Greece. I have backpacked through Italy, and I've met a friend named Lara. And we find ourselves at the Rainbow Festival in Greece, living on a mountain. This is years ago, before Facebook and Twitter and before everyone was videoing everything. So we're living on the mountain. Here we go, starting our adventure into our past life conversation. I watch Lara as we clear an area amongst the trees to practice our daily yoga. I'm learning so much from her quiet grace. She wears an Indian sari top with a matching scarf draped across her torso and a long skirt. I think it's nice for people to feel safe getting a little bit naked here, but it's not for me, she expresses confidently. I am terrified to show my breasts, let alone my entire body. Though I can't help but wonder how it would feel to be so free, you know? I say in return, and she nods quietly. The attraction I felt for her has shifted, and I am happy just being friends. Sometimes I confuse feeling physically attracted to someone with being energetically attracted to them. She is so familiar to me. There's a definite sense I know her from before, but how I know her is a mystery. With some people, you just know you can trust them, while others, not so much. I've made acquaintances where there is an immediate connection, or areas of common experience that make it easy to spend time together. And with Laura, it is all of the above. Pardon me, with Lara, it is all of the above. I have always had a sense there is something in reincarnation, but I never felt the kind of connection with someone where it could actually be true. The other night I asked, so why did you approach me at the restaurant in Italy? Why not someone else? Lara tilts her head and replies with a smile, you know about reincarnation? I smile back. She nods and looks away. Maybe she knows who I am from a past life and is waiting for me to remember her. We do our yoga and meditate with Yogananda's picture in a quiet, shady area we call our peace place. Now, this is where it began for me, really, because I had always, I had felt with all of those psychic and those sensitivities throughout my life, I'd always felt this sense that I had been here before, the sense that I knew how to do this thing here, even from as a youth, where you kind of look around, you'd be like, wow. And granted, I was in it. I was very 3D. I was very affected for a long time being so sensitive until you learn, again, that it's the illusion, until you learn how to transmute, until you learn how to heal yourself, know thyself, go within, be in it, yet rise above it, right? And this is a different path for all of us to move into those spaces. Yet, I've learned that. When this journey took place, it's so weird, I feel like this has moved. This journey took place, that was in 1997. That's 97, 2007, to this 20 years ago, right? So my journeys at that point were starting to really unveil to me this familiarity with these friends, these acquaintances, these people that I would meet on the mountain. And it all started with Lara. And I remember feeling like, wow, I so know her. Like there's such a familiarity and such a trust, like instant trust her with my life. And even, isn't that interesting, the energetic attraction, right? Sometimes the energy, and I feel like we could do a whole 4DT on that, because energy, when someone's turned on and tuned in, I mean, they got the juice, right? There's charisma, there's magnetism, there's light, there's love. And she had all that going on. And I was like, wow, so into her, mistaking it for physical attraction, only to realize later, thankfully, that it was the energy that I was attracted to, the energy that we were together. And once I had realized that, it shifted, the energy shifted. And interestingly, so to give you a little backdrop, if you're unfamiliar, we're in Australia backpacking, and we're also in Greece. And then the majority of the rest of the book, 2/3 of it, we're in New York, studying with my Grand Reiki master and trance channel teacher. Now, there's a whole series in this book line that is coming. This is the first. There's books that come before it and books that will come after. And in the book that comes after this one, called The Reiki Master, that I'm working on, what we come to understand is that Lara, and I'm going to spill beans here, I'm going to give you a little scoop. That next book probably won't be published for years still. But who knows? But what we come to realize, what I came to realize when in Australia with Lara, again, reunited 2 years after being in Greece on the mountain, we're at another rainbow festival and we get to meet in Australia, which was quite mystical and magical. I realized that she's my mother from a past life. And in that same Australia trip, in a completely separate place, in a completely kooky way, at an Australian open mic in Byron Bay at one of these youth hostels, I recognized my father from a past life in this young man. He was 10 years younger than me at the time. And he stood up on stage and he was saying a poem. You know, everyone was doing their little ditty and he was saying a poem. And I'll have to really meditate or look in my old journals to really see what the exact words, or I can actually reach out to him because we're friends still. But he's saying this whole really beautiful thing. And then he looks directly down at me. Like didn't know this guy from Adam, didn't know him from anywhere from before. He looks down at me and he says something, your son, and he looks at me, he says, or your daughter. And he says it dead straight. And I was like, as soon as that, I was like fully calibrated. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, he's my father, right? And now you could think this is all a bunch of whatever. Or you could enjoy skimming the surfaces of these kinds of realities, as I do. Some people think it's just fantasy, and that's fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing really matters until it matters. But for the sake, again, of this 3D matrix, for this myth that we are weaving through alternate realities, through quantum timelines, if there is a myth, if there is a story, it's my story, right? That I believe that this woman is my mother from a past life, that this man is my father from a past life. So anyway, we'll go into that in the book later. Yet it is very interesting because I've become very close with both of them. I still know them. I pen pal with Lara. That's 20 years ago that we were in Greece. 18 years ago we were together for the 2000 millennium in Australia. and we still pen pal, and I've seen her only once after that since then, but we're still like this. And it was interesting because in Australia, the forces that be at one point brought them to meet each other. And it was so interesting because you could tell, like, she knew that she was my mother from a past life. Like, we had both gotten that and acknowledged it. He knew that he was my father from a past life. We had both gotten that. Like, it was conscious, like, on all these parts. And then these two individuals were coming, and I was introducing them to each other, and they were kind of like checking each other out, you know, because if she was my mother and he was my father from a past life, could they have been the mother and father of me at the same time? You know, that's the vibe that was circling around. And it was just interesting. And so these complex aspects that are not really complex, but that are portals, because they lead us into different parts of ourselves and into healing different parts of ourselves. And ultimately, right, our healing path is what sets us free. If you have stuff to heal, if you're past it and you're just living the good life, then you're already in. Yet, that was just very, very cool. And you know, just recently, I posted on Instagram. I am on Instagram. If you do that, check it out. Again, my link is down below. All those links are down below. But I posted recently this week about how for 15 years of my life, I worked very closely with individuals, hospice, in hospitals and assisted livings and nursing homes, sharing Reiki, doing chair yoga, wheelchair yoga, bed-bound meditation, just all of that stuff with these individuals. And I've had some past life things with these people. One in particular, I posted this little story about this man that had been a chair yoga student of mine in a wheelchair for years. And often when these individuals would get to a point, if they're in a nursing home, but then their health goes to a certain point where they need more care, then they'll be moved to a different kind of a facility. And his health had, after whatever so many years of me knowing him and us practicing, had shifted, and he was moved into a different facility, still in the same town, and with certain individuals where I had a thing with these elders. I have such a thing with the elders. I just love, and I respect, and I appreciate them so much. And I feel really honored. So here I am, this kid, 30-something years old, and I'm doing this work with him because then these individuals would be transferred, and I would be paid. I'd be paid to do Reiki with them. I'd be paid to do yoga, to do the work that I did with them. But when these individuals, especially that I had a really deep connection with, a closeness to, would be moved, I would go out of my way and I'd go and I'd visit them, spend time with them, do Reiki with them, whatever they wanted, you know, just to visit or whatever. So I'm hanging out with him, and he had Parkinson's, and it had gotten to the point where he was having difficulty feeding himself without his hand just really, you know, moving a lot. And I remember I'm sitting there, and we had done some Reiki, and we had chatted, and he was in his late 80s and bedbound at this point. And I'm sitting on the edge of the bed with him, and we're chatting. And he says, and I think I put the story a little bit different on my Instagram, but the story is that he asked me if I would help feed him his yogurt. He was hungry, and his hand was too shaky to do the spoon and all that. And I said, of course. So I got it, and I peeled it, and I remember the exact moment that scene started to play, that I started to play out that scene of taking the spoon into the thing and turning towards him, looking into his beautiful blue eyes. So enlightened. Now that I think back, I'm like, these beings, God bless these beings, because It's just angels and light beings everywhere. And I fed him. And I remember watching the spoon go into his mouth and him, you know, eating, and we'd pause, and if you need the napkin, and, you know, and we did the yogurt. And it was so, I mean, I feel right now like little bursts of Kundalini, which, remember, is like that orgasm feeling. It's your cerebral spinal fluid. It's like this realization of that oneness. It's that realization of truth for me. And I remember I was like, as I was feeding him, I was like, oh, it was an exact imprint, an exact memory of what we had done together before. And he looked in my eyes, and I looked in his eyes, and he smiled a gentle smile. And there was this knowing, this absolute knowing that we had been together before in a very similar way. And there was this beautiful pause and this beautiful space of silence in which I got this download. And it was so profound because at that point of my life, which was several years, right, after being in Greece and Australia and beginning to have my activations of past life memories and whatnot, it was quite profound because here I am thinking of past lives in one very specific way. And yet what I came to learn with him is that, and please, if this resonates with you, let it come in, is that he often spoke of the war. And honestly, I can't remember. Again, I'd have to look in my journal and my notes, whether it was the Korean War or the Vietnam War, but he was in one of those wars, right? For those war vets. And the memory is that while I was feeding him, there was like full-on hologram layover detail activation memory of feeding him before, of being a nurse. It was a time of war. We were in one of those like hospital kind of tents. He was laid up with the bandages around his leg, and I was a nurse that was helping to feed him and take care of him from a past life. But you see, the thing that was different about this one is that he was still on that same timeline. He was still in the same life. Whereas that nurse that I was, however many years ago that was, had been and gone, had died already. I had been reborn as Tuesday, as this personality, as this being, and was seeing him again. I mean, this was so powerful and so magnificent and such a beautiful aha for me. And I look forward to speaking about it more, to writing about it more. And this is what I'm saying, is that there's these timelines. There's these, is that Will? Is that Will? Afternoon, blessings, Will. There's these amazing things. I don't know if you caught that story, Will, but this idea where people are still on the same life, and you know them from a past life, but perhaps this is your second lifetime along that timeline of knowing them. And so this reconnecting with this individual and this recognition that we had been here together before in this like exact same way, me by his bedside, it was just so profound. And it just catapulted me further into a sense of knowingness, of just how many lifetimes, of how many times I've been here. And for me, it is countless. I don't know what it is for you, only you know, but for me, it is countless. It is like, and the more that you rest in this idea of being here before, as it resonates as truth with you, the more that you relax into it and just open yourself for the highest good, for information to come through, for more details to be added as it serves your highest good to know. You will be guided, you will be shown, you will be illumined. And again, a part of that galactic consciousness begins to activate and radiate so that as you know and you remember, others who are ready to know and remember come into their sweetness, into their space of that also. And so it is this very, very interesting tapestry that we weave together. And from being here so many lifetimes, I feel that I know a lot of people. And in past tarot card readings, I know we've said that when the past life card comes up, you know, that often it's saying, like, pay attention to those individuals around you. Chances are you guys know each other from before, or you girls or you people know each other from before. And in many ways, sure, there's that aspect of karma. Maybe you did something wrong and it's going to come back and all that stuff. Yet outside of that polarized notion of things, there's this realm of like, we're here to help lift each other up. We're here to see each other. We're here to play a part in this myth. If you are on the path of enlightenment, if you are on a spiritual path, like a sincere spiritual path in this lifetime, again, as I said at the beginning of this, chances are you've been here before. And to the degree that you are allowing yourself to be aware and enlightened and awake now is to the extent, minimally, that you've been before. And chances are you've even surpassed the level of enlightenment that you are at now. And you get to play catch up, right? And it's a part of the mystery. It's a part of the myth of like the remembering. And again, it's that remembering together, as we're talking about in the tarot card reading. It's that the DNA in me calibrating, your DNA calibrating, but then the conversation, oh my God, that your DNA has with my DNA, and that her DNA and his DNA, and that all of our, the one strand, right, DNA consciousness has together. It's that collective experience that takes us into a deeper sense of knowing, where we can relax and trust this divine process of life. But also, and that we can access the pure potential of why we're here. And I do have another piece to read here, as the God Phone was asking us from the book. Yet, what I've realized for myself, and perhaps it's true for you, is as I've gotten over myself, you know, the victimhood, the pain of my past, which there's a lot there. There's a lot there. It's all in the book. There's even pain. I mean, pain. Part of this spectrum, right? But again, as we learn to heal all that stuff, then the shiny truth of you is just allowed to be. We're allowed to just be that. And in that truth, in that space where we can just relax, often that's where the ahas come. That's where the realization of like, I know you from before. And even if they don't know you from before, that you know them from before, that's for you. It doesn't matter if other people recognize you. It has nothing to do with that. If you recognize them, there's a piece for your story that you're living out in this life that is very important, I feel, that is very important to the trajectory of you mastering this lifetime, of you really embodying and bridging that which it is that you are here to do. If you're at that point where you're recognizing your people, you're like, hey, high five, I've seen you before, we're here, woo woo, like, sure, you can come here to party. And yes, eat the good foods, enjoy the sensual getting in the ocean or being barefoot in the earth and making love and whatever all the juicy, sensual, heightened things are. And you can keep it at that and be enlightened, you know, and just be a kind, beautiful, loving, compassionate person in the world who just, you know, has an orgasm every time you eat a good peach. And if there's more, right, then allowing yourself to explore the adventure, the invitation of like, well, if this person, if I know them, you know, what, there's a part of the puzzle. And not that it's something that you have to figure out and make sense of, but something that you rather allow and hold space for, and the information as it is divinely guided that will serve you will be revealed for your path. For example, along my path of realizing that I've been here over and 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 over again, as all of these creatures, as all of these different versions of a human being, as a male, as a female, as everything in between, whatever, where it's led me is back to that calling, is back to, we were calling it, right, that purpose, that sense of like, well, why am I here now? Is it just to hang out, to just be like, hey, what's up, mom? What's up, dad? What's up, son? What's up, daughter? You know? What's up, ex-lover from a past life? It's like, is that what we're, maybe. And just eat your peaches. Yet, for me, and I'm sharing this like everything, that you maybe would reflect and see where it resonates for you, but there is this sense of, as I sit with it, and I see my brothers, and I see my sisters, and I see my exes, and I see my sons, and my daughters, and my fathers, and my mothers, and all this collective group, and all of these ways that we've been together here on this planet before. And as I sit with that and allow just the resonance of that to be a truth within me, what it does, again, is it lights up and it calibrates and it connects parts of those sleeping DNA that are ready to be awakened for our highest good, that are here to inspire us, to give us mojo, power, trust, courage to follow the path that we know is our truth. So as I've explored and allowed myself to be with that idea of past lives, what I've realized is that it keeps bringing me back to this idea that I'm like, oh, I'm a writer, I'm an author. I'm here to share these teachings. And the more that I allow myself to rest into that, the more, knowing that it is truth for me, the more the breadcrumb trail becomes revealed, the more the ahas become awakened within me. That is my personalized, individualized, as Marianne Williamson says, curriculum that has gone from pain to power, that has gone from dark to light, that I get to live, that makes it fun here, that makes it worthwhile. Because yes, peaches are good. Sensual things are great. And I love sensual, everything. Yet, if we have these powers, if we have this divine interconnection, and as we allow it to be submerged in the light of our consciousness, it very potentially will show us, it will gift us opportunities, it will invite us to meet new people, places, and to adventure into parts of ourselves that we perhaps have not explored yet in this lifetime. As such, as I've surrendered to doing these kinds of shows, because even doing this, even though I love it with all of my heart and soul, there was resistance. A year ago, excuse me, when the universe was like, okay, my higher self was like, okay, you're going to start doing a live stream every week. I was like, are you joking me? I was like, what? What am I even going to talk about every week? What? You know, all the 3D, the mind started being like, what do you mean? How's that going to work? Where am I going to sit? What's the lighting going to be like? What's it going to, you know, all this stuff. And then there's the surrender. So it's like that. It's very easy in the past for me to be a hermit, to just be, one of my visions, right, that I carried my whole life was to just be a monk on the hill with a cat and maybe a bottle of wine, and just to write, because I know I'm here to write. See, that's the thing though, is that I know that I am here to write, to document, to publish the findings. And so once I had come in alignment with that knowing, I was like, oh, I could just sit on the mountain, have a little cabin, have a few friends and a cat and a bottle of wine, and just write until I die. And like, I would be happy. Yet the more that I keep surrendering and giving myself to being an author, and two, sharing the teachings, the more the universe and my higher self is like, okay, and now you're going to do this, and now you're going to do that. And it's opening a wider spectrum for me to be able to share all these conversations and these teachings that I wouldn't be able to if I was the hermit on the mountain. And as I allow myself to come off the mountain and to share, what is given is even more. So as you pick the breadcrumb, and as you eat that breadcrumb, even though it's been on the dirt, it's okay. Dirt's okay for you. You process it, you get information as you allow yourself to trust it, to follow even just one breadcrumb at a time, the tiniest little crumb, little morsel. You will become enlightened and enlivened and become aware and activated to the next step of your path. And for me, that was realizing over and over and over, like a spiral, how my job here in this life is to write, but also that in my many past lives, that's actually all I've ever done. It has had something to do with writing, with sacred texts, with keeping them, holding them, writing, proliferating them, whatever it is, all of those realms, but scribing specifically, that has been a job that I have given myself and that I have given to myself for many lives over. So for you, and just for fun, without taking it too serious, is there something for you that you feel? What are your gifts and your talents in this life? Where is your natural draw to show up, to shine? Where is it in your nature? You know, and is that something that you have perhaps embodied before in this lifetime? And is that, because that's a portal. If you have a natural propensity for being a painter in this lifetime, imagine you're every time you paint, you're bringing in, you're connecting, you're drawing from all of the creativity, all of the ways that you have channeled art through all time and space, through all dimensions, through all lifetimes. And if you don't think of it that way, and if it resonates with you, perhaps you can say a prayer. You can consider making an affirmation or a conscious intention, a statement of saying like, wow, as I sit here with this blank canvas and these paints, I connect with, for the highest good, I call in and connect with all those parts of me through all time and space dimensions and past lives that has been this artist, that has been an artist. And I call all those parts of me in right now to channel through this beautiful work that I'm guided to sit with on this day. And just notice if it's different, how it is more expansive. Blessings, Lucy. Ah, Lucy from England. Thank you for joining. So cool. And thank you for saying from England. It's so nice to know there is this global community, right? This beautiful collective. So these past life portals. So I'm gonna tell you, it's not a secret. Maybe only Will knows this. Because it's something that happened recently. But you see, as we honor, if it resonates, if it doesn't resonate, of course, don't honor it. Or if you're not ready to go there, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. It should feel good. It should feel, you know, like something you want to do, to explore these realms. But as I've just relaxed, because for many years then I had a resistance to coming off of the mountain. I just wanted to drink my wine and pet the cat and write books until I died and not do these sort of things. Even though it's very natural for me to do these things, a part of me was very happy to never be in the public and to just be the scribe. I think perhaps as I've been several times, and they're like, yeah, and in this life, you're coming off the mountain. You can still have time. You can still have your retreat at the mountain, but we need you. You're coming out front. And as I've just surrendered to that, and I'm just like, okay, weekly live stream, okay, blogs, okay, mailing list, you know, whatever all that 3D stuff is, to just create the correct container and conditions for the teachings that I'm guided to share. Books, okay, I'll write books, which I love doing. But it's leading, right? When we surrender to those things, it leads us to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And what has come in this recent past is that what they told me, my higher self, my guides, what they said over this period of eclipses is that, yes, for many, many past lives, as you know, they're my higher self talking to me, you have been a scribe, you have held space for sacred text, you have been a part of holding them, of writing them, creating them, all this stuff. And so that you are aware, we are letting you know and inviting you to explore sacred texts from the past, writings from the past. And I was like, well, yes, of course, I love texts and sacred writings from the past and all that stuff. But I was like, but why? And my higher self is like, because you've left yourself a breadcrumb trail of writings from all of those past lives. Every time you've been here and you've written, whether you've published little books, little children's story, or something really, sacred that was lost in the tombs and has been re-excavated or whatever, all those things. But they were saying like, that go where you're guided to go and explore those things because you have left yourself messages there. I love that. The moment I got that download, I was like, oh, chills, chills. And I love that. And so what is that for you? What is your breadcrumb trail? And we can't force these things. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, you could, but I had no idea the higher self was going to be like booming in that night and being all like, telling me that I have left stuff here for myself and to meditate and to just be open and to be receptive to as those things come into my life and pay attention and get what I need from them to further my excitement and my joy and propel me along this path of being a writer again here, of being a scribe again here, of being a part of proliferating these teachings in the way, in the page that I am, in the storybook that we all are, in the piece of the puzzle that we all are a piece of. And so what is that for you? And you don't necessarily have to have the answer right now, yet that's what I'm talking about, past life portals. When we recognize, when we get to a point where we're like, oh, yes, okay, I see my family, my brother, my sons, my mothers, whoever all these people are from our past life. These are a part of those breadcrumbs. And as we practice our meditations and our spiritual pursuits and we heal ourselves and we undo all those layers of pain and the stuff that keeps us distracted while we're here in a body in the 3D, as those things lift and we become clearer and able to just be present, it's like, then this divine memory, these divine knowing notions have space. They have a sacred space in you, in me, where we can be like, and that DNA, the memory becomes calibrated. And then we're like, well, what do I do with it? And sometimes you'll get a direct download of what to do with it. And sometimes it's like, stay on standby and just let yourself be with that which you have realized now. The portals. Portals, past life portals are important because they remind us of who we are and perhaps where we're going. And I know here at 4DT, we don't, we're like, we know that time is an illusion. Past doesn't really exist. Future doesn't really exist. There's only the now. Yet, if we're going to play the game of life here, if we're not going to be the hermit on the mountain and just hide out and still maybe do our paintings or do our trade or whatever our heart desires, but if we're going to participate in the puzzle, participate in the myth, then these past life portals, as they resonate, as you may register with them, as they may have something here for you, they will show you things about yourself that you were otherwise unconscious of. And as we learn and become more and more conscious of who we are, of what the divine design is that we might experience in this life, well, it just makes it so much fun. It makes it a mystery, a mystical adventure, which to me is, I think think it's the only way I can really be here and really be alive. For me personally. You know, and some people could say it's all in my head, it's all fantasy, all of these notions I have, like about all these people that I know. I know you and you and you and you and you and the guy at the post office and the lady at the hardware store and like all these, we are family, you know, and it's like, and I know you, even if you don't know me, you know, there's a lot of people. If you have a connection to being here before, there's a lot of potentially people that you know you, or that you just know from before. As we turn on and honor that connection with one another, well, what happens is we begin, those are portals. If I see you and I recognize that there's something there beyond just this life, beyond just that kind exchange, and even if you don't see it, but I do, that is a portal that I can move into with my consciousness, naturally. And there's no force of a will. We're not manipulating people's energy. We're not going in anywhere, but we're not supposed to. It's not about that. It's all about you, what's happening on your side of the court. Because again, they don't even have to have any notion that they know you from a past life. It's about you and your portal, and where your portal takes you into a greater understanding of who you are and what you get to bridge, bring, and be and embody in this lifetime. One breadcrumb at a time. And as we come into attunement and alignment with that, well, that's what makes life worth living. I love my peaches. That sounds weird. That sounds weird. You know, I also love this mystical experience of being in a body, of being in the world, yet not of it. And I love and appreciate my galactic family. Many of you that we know we've been here before. We know we've been here together before. We know we've been here doing the same kind of work together before. Oh, and here we are again. Oh, we're not in the dark ages anymore. We're in the light ages. Oh, we're in the Aquarian age. Oh, we're in the, you know, whatever it is. Oh, you came back. You're still a dancer. That's so cool. You know? Oh, you came back. You're a writer. That's so cool. You're still a writer, huh? From all those lifetimes. Okay, you go, girl. You know? Doing our work here. And so again, we move out of the status quo or the just purely sensual, sensually enlightened, which is great because there's a place for everything. Nothing's right or wrong. But when we start to participate, when we start to take those breadcrumbs, we eat them. We take the medicine and we simply allow. And those gifts, those visions are awakened within us and we follow through on them. What happens when we come off the mountain and we start following the breadcrumbs, again, we eat them, we follow through with them, is that a different hologram begins to activate, a different quantum realm of potential begins to open up for you, whereby you get to know thyself. That's how we started this whole conversation today, is knowing thyself, where you get to understand and know thyself in ways that you have never done before, in ways that are so powerful, that put you in tune and in alignment with your perfect power, your pure, authentic, regal sovereignty that is unfuckable with. If you know you've been here 1,000,000 times before, or even just 3 times before, or once before, and you're already here watching this show, this is really a piece of cake. We forget so that we can have some drama and some fun and some juicy polarity and like healing stuff, right? But, you know, we're learning how to heal our lives. We're learning how to live in peace. We're learning how to resonate, how to embody that unity consciousness, that oneness that we already are. And it's in that that we start to recognize our brothers, our sisters, our families. And when we recognize it together, we start playing the part. We come off the mountain. I could stay on the mountain and be like, fuck that. I'm going to just keep writing here. I'm not going to do a YouTube live. I'm not going to go and try to get on TV shows and talk about these things. I'm going to stay on the mountain. And that's fine too. When you start to eat your breadcrumbs and you start to recognize your galactic family and that you may actually be here for a reason that your higher self and you had agreed upon, being a part of the plan, the potential plan for why you are here again. It's like, why are you here? Sorry, not sorry. But you know, I guess what I'm impassionately attempting to convey is that considering that you are here for a reason and that you are not listening to this or watching this without a reason. And perhaps it's to stay on the mountain and to say, yeah, no, thanks. And perhaps it's to say, yeah, I'm going to keep taking those breadcrumbs as they lead me off of the mountain and into the seeming world to share the love, the light, the work, the teachings, the gifts that I naturally embody, because that's your mythic calling. And when we do that, again, we're still in the world, we're still a body, but we start to be in the world and not of it. We start to bridge heaven on earth. We start to weave that fourth dimensional consciousness, which is pure love, pure heart. It's living from the truth in your heart. It's where we collapse timelines that are not in resonance with those realities of truth in you. And so those things just stop existing. They just stop existing in your timeline. Illness, chemtrails, pain, violence, war, trauma, all that stuff. You start to exist in heaven on earth. You start to bridge it through you, through following those breadcrumbs, through the portals of our past life connection, through recognizing our past life connections and honoring them and allowing what does resonate, again, to activate within you and to pay attention to where it leads you, because that is the portal of you. That is taking you closer to yourself. So the relationships and the connections that we have with one another are portals, bringing you back to you, bringing you back to you understanding with grace your path here. It's about empowering your path here. And it's about remembering your mystical propensity, your mystical, the quality of you as a sage, as a light, as the light. And all the teachings and all the, mystical and sacred spiritual texts we're taught that we are not a body. Like, we don't stop here, right? We go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. We're eternal. We are love. We are light. There is no beginning. There is no end. Yet these are stories that we make up, I think, for our entertainment or for the participation, right, of being these beings on these different planets. And isn't it just gorgeous? Isn't it just delightful and lovely? I'm so grateful that we get to know each other again in this lifetime. I'm so grateful for all those people, all of those beings, right, that you've been before, that I've been before, that we've been before together, and that we get to come back and this time around be seen by one another and see each other. And have these conversations and lift each other up in that knowing that there is more, to life than just having a body, than just getting up in the morning and clocking in and clocking out, going to bed and repeating. That there is this fine substrata at work, at play, within us, through us, and all around us, that if we shall place our awareness there and pay attention to those people, those places where we have that affinity, that connection, that past life connection, sitting with it deeply and allowing it as a portal to open, that we may voyeur, that we may vision and go within those spaces and those places and say, show me. And really, you don't even have to say anything. Just by you showing up, it will give you what you need to know at this time. And it might be scary. You might be like, yeah, I feel like I've totally been here before. I know all these people, but I don't want to know. Then you don't have to know. That's fine, right? There's no right or wrong. Perhaps at some point you'll be curious and you'll want to explore that, and you'll know where to go. You'll know how to sit and meditate. Say, okay, you know, or your higher self will just know that you're ready, and it will start to give you the impressions required for your divine path at that time to put the pieces together. So I do want to read one more part of this book. As you know, or you're unaware, the God phone, God called this morning, as God always does, and asked us to read about past lives from my book, The Reiki Apprentice. And where did God say to, oh, here we go. So we already read about Lara and how I had recognized her as being my mother from a past life. And, you know, I hear myself talk about drugs, you know, and I guess they have played and when I say drugs, LSD is what I'll say, is more than drugs, LSD. And I want you to know that I am not telling you that you need to take LSD to have experiences. It was simply my experience, and I don't take it for many years now. I haven't touched it. I haven't been guided. I'm done. My higher self, everyone, my team of angels is like, don't do it. You don't need it. You're wide open. Stop. You're good. And I mean, anyway, you know, if you read the book, there's the ups and downs, right, of opening your aura too quickly with drugs as well, even unintentionally, of weird things that can go on. Yet I'm not advocating that you do that, right? As a collective, we are at a place where we can access these altered states of consciousness and download divine wisdoms without needing to go to that degree, right? And LSD is pretty hardcore. It's pretty hardcore, and you really want to be guided, and you really want to be in the right place with the right people, and you really want to have a tripping buddy. Besides that, though I have not been guided to be with that substance in a very, very long time, I've been with the medicine, with ayahuasca many times. I have been with a journey in the ceremony of psilocybin, of the magic mushroom. And I know that these journeys are themselves portals, you know, if you've ever been with them. And that it is with these experiences that have loosened any tight, like a nut and a bolt, anywhere where there have been tight holdings on of a fear-based reality where the buck stops here at this body, and where I might be afraid to explore deeper realms of consciousness. Well, these journeys and ceremonies have just busted all those nuts and bolts out. And so the ability to be sensitive, to have the aptitude to relate to one another on a past life level, and to, from that point, remember through the portal of that past life connection, come back to the memory of, like, why am I here? What is the true calling in my heart? And if you recognize someone from a past life, in this life now, they have a part to play in your play. And you have a part to play in their play of life. And it's in the just listening and being present with it that you are naturally guided. You don't even have to make it up. You don't have to figure it out. You just rest there and allow. for the highest. Oh, well, now that I'm aware, that I see, that I recognize this person from a past life, what am I supposed to do with it? You don't have to do anything at all, but you can also invite that awareness in and quest into it through that portal and ask it, okay, now that I have this awareness, what is it here to show me? And I'll tell you from my experiences, most likely it will show you the work that you have to do with that person, the work that on a higher level you may have agreed to do together before you came to this life and forgot that you know each other. Now you're remembering each other. And now that portal, or now even again, if you just remember on your side, that portal is open for you to explore. And even if it is just a sense of them seeing you, you seeing them, you having a sense of what that means to you, the healing that that brings about, and the mystical certainty that that creates as a foundation in you is a grounding rod. The ability to be with this sense that you are multidimensional is really mystical. It's really so powerful. Because again, right, and I know it's a tagline, it's a hashtag, but the ability to be unfuckable with, right, which is when we talk about that, we're talking about, you know, your mental continuum, your emotional continuum, your physical. You know, you're not just a body. You know, you're not a body. Well, you're in the 3D, here in this land, all of you is smushed into this tiny little vehicle of a physical being. I mean, granted, right, we've talked about this before. There's the bloop. And what we collectively agreed on, you know, the Merkaba, the Taurus field, the aura, etc., all these energy parts of our vehicle, these mechanisms that expand and that we are. And that really, because there is no me and you, we are, and it is one. We are one. Yet while we're in a body and while we're here as individuals to that degree, right, we remember together, and just being in the presence of someone that you feel that connection with is a portal for you to remember your truth, for you to see yourself. And even if it's just to know that you got people here who have your back spiritually, right? And sometimes there are karmas. Sometimes it's like, ooh, I know them from before, and ooh, right? Then we get to clean that up with as much mastery and grace as we can at any given time and space. We get to show up and be present for that, so we can clear that up. And again, if you don't, you don't, right? There's no right or wrong. I'm going to bring it back in, though, and we're going to finish reading here a bit from the Reiki Apprentice. And the whole reason why I brought up the LSD is because the part I'm going to read to you here is, I'm on the mountain in Greece, and I've just taken LSD. We're going in. A while later, the system between my brain and mouth shuts down. I strum the guitar lazily and begin to close my eyes as if falling asleep while standing. Olive sees I am making a transition to the Gorbachev Express. The Gorbachev was the name of the LSD that we took. And draws the guitar from my immovable hands. I open my eyes and strain to see through the shimmering light of a bright translucent aura that appears to surround everyone and everything. In the distance, small flickering lights float up the hill as rainbow brothers and sisters make the pilgrimage back to camp. All of the drumming and dancing are over, and only 20 or so of us remain at the main fire pit where everything started earlier this evening. I am unsure how much time has passed. There is a completely new vibe around the fire now, and all those present are completely still, entranced by the glowing embers. I gaze down and notice a young man's head resting at my lap, and I remember this like it was yesterday. I receive an impression deep within my gut. This man is your son from a past life. As if hearing my inner notions, he glances to me and smiles. His eyes burn through mine and I collapse. Taking him into my arms, I begin to cry. Indeed, I do recognize him as my son. I sense a shift from within take place. With closed eyes, I see strings of energy light my body from the inside, like glittering beams emerging from deep within. My spine is filled with sparks of electricity. I sit up super tall and I open my eyes. I then broaden my gaze. Looking to my left, I see another young brother resting his head on my opposite thigh. Mesmerized by the glow of light all around, I lift my head and come to notice as many as 10 more young men laying and sitting around me. I slowly look into each of their eyes and softly gaze with them for extended periods of time. I identify every one of them as a son of mine from some past life or another. I weep and my heart sobs out of sheer joy and gratitude. To be reunited with so many offspring from many past lifetimes is indeed overwhelming. These young men know who I am. I am mother. I am woman. They are my sons. I have never felt so sure about past lives as I do now. We remain swooning, hugging, smiling, and sobbing together for what feels like an eternity. We are reunited, reconnected, and realized so much in our silent communion. I then close my eyes and fall backwards into the earth. Feeling so safe, loved, and empowered by this occurrence, I weep and laugh aloud with these new feelings of ecstatic joy. I am surrounded by men and feel nothing but love and safety. This is a new reality for me. One I am open and ready to receive. I roll to my side looking for Aleph. I can hear him telepathically calling me to join him. You know, and it's interesting, right? Because I am surrounded by men and feel nothing but love and safety. That's what I'm talking about. When we're talking about these portals, I mean, right, we're covering a lot of stuff here, but this is what I'm talking about, is that in my journey and experience through being with these different substances in the right places with the right kind of people in the right environments, and allowing, I'm on LSD in that situation, allowing it to guide. I had already had this experience with Laura where I was like, I feel like I know her from a past life, but I didn't know she was my mother yet. But just that one thread, being open to it, without even trying, later in that situation, during that journey with the Gorbachev Express, as I call it, it's like the thread pulled more. And it's like, again, those veils were lifted and those nuts and bolts were left behind. And my ability to be with this idea that all of these sons of mine were surrounding me was so profound. And especially at the end there of that little story where I say that I felt nothing but love and safety, that's the healing of that past life portal for me. I mean, that was so absolutely profound for me, because as you read my book and you learn about me, my whole life, up until not too very long ago, I lived in fear of men. I lived in fear of men, of masculine sexual energy. And so being on this mountain with all these naked people, men and women and all these, mystical, magical things, and coming to that realization, while in a very open way through this journey of this LSD, this gift, there was a healing for me. I realized that I could be in the presence of men. I realized that I had people here. I had my sons in the house. And I had always walked like a warrior, real tough. I was tough as nails, man, because I was afraid of men. So I had a lot of shields up. And this softened me. This experience was my portal, one of my many portals to a deeper understanding of who I am here, of how this mystical interconnection abides around me, but also if it's for me, then it's for you too, if you shall choose it, if it shall resonate with you. And so these portals, these past life recognitions that we have, again, serve to catapult us into a greater remembering. Not only just like, I know you from a past life, right? But it's the healing. It's the healing that can take place from that realization, from that recognition. And whatever's going to happen with it here in this life, we don't know. Yet the initial activation through honoring, through seeing, through recognizing your past life relations creates a sacred space in which you get to recognize and honor with excitement and a mystical buzzing quality, like the work you get to do here in this life. And the work, I mean, being the spiritual paths you get to walk together, the mysteries you get to remember again together, right? As one soul, as your light being, light body version of you, as your higher self, you know everything. Because there's nothing to know. You know what I mean? Yet, condensed here in the 3D, right? Again, we come back in with maybe knowing so much pain. We do the human thing. We heal, and then we start to become enlightened. We enlighten. We lighten our load. More light is in our channels, in our beings, in our bodies. There's less atoms, less stuff of the 3D. So there's more space for that sacred energy to channel through us. And in the light of that love, of that frequency that is truth, that is oneness, that is all knowing without knowing anything, we remember that there is a sacred path here that we get to explore. And even if it's only revealed one breadcrumb at a time, but that is our portal to your greatest life, to your purpose, if you want to call it that. So who do you recognize from a past life? Who do you know from before? Have others told you that they know you from a past life? Even if you're not sure if you recognize them in the same way, you know, how has that olive branch been extended to you? Or how have you extended it to others? You think about your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your math teacher in school, the police officer who gave you a speeding ticket, whoever, whatever it is, like, do you know these people? And as we begin to remember through the portals of remembering these past life connections, we can, if we should choose, begin to bridge and weave this 4D matrix of consciousness that is made up of a finer substrata of the grid as we know it, of the matrix as we know it, that is free of polarity, free of, again, the hard binary polarized system of thinking, the fear versus love, the two choices, where we start moving into that space of co-creating with love, with light, with one another, to the degree where we realize that we can choose love, and we can choose love, and we can choose it over and over and over again, and that it actually has an eternal and infinite amount of fractals that it can show up and invite us through opportunity to experience ourselves, one another, and the expression of that which wishes and seeks to be expressed through us in this life, in this body, on this planet, while bridging heaven on earth. In the world, not of it. We start to exist in a different timeline, many different timelines, in a different quantum reality or realities. And we stop living so much in the 3D, or we are less affected by it, because we recognize that there is a veil. We recognize there is an elusive part of this experience of being a human being in a body. And we start to realize that we are more than that. And our brothers and our sisters and our fathers and our mothers and all of these, this divine family, this constellation of relations that you have through all time and space, through all dimensions, we have things for each other. And what is that? It is love. We get to remember love together, my family. And as we remember love together, the whole thing is healed. It's done. It's beautiful. So these past life portals, where's your people? Maybe you're like, I don't got no people. Or so-and-so says that I'm their people, but I don't want to be their people. Right? You have free will. You can keep gates, gateways, portals. You don't have to go through. And if someone comes through and they're like, oh, you're totally my mother from a past life. And if you're like, yeah, that's on your side of the fence. For me, I don't get that. It's not so. Then so be it. But you just wait. There could be some time then later where you're like, oh my God, that lover was so my lover from before, or that lover was my father. Or my father in this life used to be my lover, or is my soulmate, twin flame. But I can't be with him now because in this life I'm his daughter. You know, like this stuff gets real intricate. And there are these amazing portals that if we should sit with it and allow ourselves to be led and guided for the highest good into those realms, we will be given and shown the map. One breadcrumb at a time, perhaps a whole bunch, but you'll be shown where to go, what to do, and you'll be excited about it. And maybe that's just my projection. I know for me, I've been more excited than scared. As I realize how many times I've been here, as you realize how many times you've been here, how many different beings you have embodied, how many different forms and formlessnesses that you have bridged here on this planet. Again, as you have a resonance with that, you begin to feel like a king. You begin to feel like a queen. Because you're like, I get the hang of this. Well, my higher self is like, wait. Is it called caveat? We get the hang of it as we do the work. And the work, as always, right? In the beginning, the kindergarten level is heal your life. Learn how to heal your life. Learn how to heal your life. Forgive yourself, forgive others. Open your heart, right? That's all. That's like the rudimentary. It's like without that, all this spiritual or psychic stuff or whatever, without an open heart, that's just magic. And it's one thing to be a great magician and to do all sorts of spells or to have an ability to be intuitive and psychic and all that stuff. But what is that without grounding in the heart? It's magic. And it's one thing to be a magician, and it's a very other thing to be a master. There's nothing right or wrong, right? Yet we come to a point, we come to a crossroads at a certain point, and we realize and we recognize what feels good, what feels true. And because love, what I teach here is that love is the truth, that which brings us back to love. Is that. And that is what sustains and nourishes every part of you, every part of me, every part of the path along the way. It's what we drink, right? As we take those breadcrumb pills, the red pill, the blue pill. What about no pill? What about just taking the breadcrumb trail, right? I mean, that's a pill in itself. It's so powerful and it's so beautiful. And as we recognize each other in the love and the light that we are and that is, and we say yes, especially, of course, if it resonates. If it doesn't, again, what are you going to say yes to it? You'll say yes when it's time to say yes. But when you say yes, you will be given another set of breadcrumbs. The portal will open and you will be given like an itinerary that'll give you like highlights of where you're going or where you could go, where you could be, what you could do, that'll be exciting to you, that will include those people that you know from past lives. You'll be like, OMG, we get to hang out again and do like this thing. And we get to do it however we want because we're creators. In alignment, of course, with the Most High, love and light always. But once that's done, then you're like, woo! It's a party up in here. It's a party. The portal party, past life portal party. No. Sounds weird. Never mind. I pray and I affirm that everything I share here, that everything we share truly serves your path of spiritual growth, of sovereignty, of us, of you, of me, of we, of us collectively. Getting what we need. Because really, I'm not here to try to share words and teachings and ideas to change anything at all. I'm just letting you know, often from my personal experience, right? How just coming into alignment and realization and consideration with some of these ideas has completely changed my life in the most amazing, mystical, empowering ways. Because when you realize, again, that you have been here before, and not to say that if you don't realize that you've been here before, then you're fucked. No, that's not what we're saying. Yet if there's a sense that you've been here before, you've done the rodeo before, you got this, honey. You got this. One day at a time, one step at a time. Keep meditating, keep practicing self-love, being gentle on yourself. You know, all these things that we talk about, that we do, that we practice all of these muscles. We move from being unconscious to conscious. We always say that. We move from being the victim in this awful, terrible drama of a world to like, whoa, this place is out of sight. Because it is. Because we're seeing from here. We're seeing from here. And it's very different. Fourth dimensional consciousness, that which we see, that which we view and perceive and know, from thine eye being single, from the third eye, from our light sight being turned on, is a very different realm. We call it heaven on earth versus the world, versus the matrix, versus the grid. But again, the grid, the matrix, is like our playground. It's our kindergarten. And sometimes we stay there forever. And sometimes we graduate a little or a lot. And, you know, we learn how to do our labyrinth through it. And we get to that place of alignment where just naturally we're like, whoa, connected and plugged in. And then it's the sustaining, right? It's the nurturing of of those conditions, the meditations, the healing, the grounding, all the things that we do to help keep ourselves available to those frequencies, to keep the container that we are, the vehicle that we are, in such a condition as to be able to hold those frequencies without exploding or blowing up. Right? It's our capacity to do that that will perpetuate it, that will keep us on that path. And so I feel like we're about ready to wrap up. If there's any comments or questions, I'm happy to talk, share. And I guess, you know, as I said at the beginning of this 4DT, I don't have notes today. It's really just whatever has been guided to be shared. And in consideration of that, it feels that the takeaway is the development of this mystical certainty that has a profound grounding rod and connecting force for you, for me, for we, that is rooted in love, that brings us back to a plan and a purpose that is much bigger than that which we are told by the matrix, than that which we are told by the grid or by society and the media. We know this. If you're watching this, maybe this is a new idea, but for the most part, we probably get that. So we keep getting it though, right? We keep coming in. We keep aligning, going in that bit deeper and deeper until we actually live it. And that's where I'm at now. I live life knowing that I've been here a gazillion times, knowing that I've been a rock to a leaf on a tree, to a whale hundreds of times over in the ocean, right? To a shark, to, you know, that butterfly, to the hummingbird, to the horse, to the, and generally, take this as a little piece. What are your animal totems? Chances are that's who you've been. Those beings, those animals are versions of you, of who you've been in the past life. Those are your people. That's why they're your totems. Those are portals. We know that those animals, the medicine that they have for us, those with which where we feel that affinity and that connection, and we read the medicine, receive the medicine of them, there's generally a resonance. They are our guides. We are our guides. We are each other's guides. You know, and if you feel alone, alone is different from lonely, right? Alone is something every master learns to befriend, to be alone, because ultimately that's all there is. Even when you're out and about at your Starbucks or at the grocery store or whatever, it's really all you. Yet being in this body, in this earth, and recognizing that there are other yous here. As a past life, you know, part of you, of your life, of your timelines, of your experiences, of the work that you get to do here, of you're like, okay, every time I go to Earth, I'm a writer. Like, that's my thing. Like, every time I go to Earth, and that's what I've learned through all this, following the breadcrumbs of my past lives, is I really get it now. I'm like, oh, the whole reason, like the only reason, the whole reason why I come back here, yes, we do this Earth thing, the pain and the power, and the violence or the trauma or the, you know, the healing things, which are all divinely coordinated, of course, for our highest good and our healing passages as we are aligned and guided to move in those directions. Yet it's like, it's this perfect puzzle, right, that we come into. And again, when you realize, I know there was a point there and it went, but maybe it'll come back. But we realize that there is just this bad-ass continuum of you, of me, of we, And that together, when we turn on and we recognize these aspects, we plug in that greater myth. We plug in that level of consciousness of like the plan of light that is the truth that we have always been. And we remember, though. We come into an empowered remembering through the portal of recognizing your past lives. You come into the potential power of being reminded of all that you are, of all the powers and the qualities. And again, that's what I was going to say, thank you very much, is you begin to realize like, oh, my job when I come here, even if I've been abused, if I've come from an alcoholic family or whatever those external lessons or even your own addictions, right? But you begin to learn, you're like, oh, my thing when I come to this planet is I do this. I dance when I come here. Oh, really? I make houses when I come here. Oh, I work with the earth. Oh, I'm a botanist. Oh, when I come to this planet, I tap dance. When I come to this planet, you know, I make art. When I come to this planet, I teach children. When I come to this planet, I'm a healer. When I come to this planet, I wear a few different hats. You know, whatever it is, it's like there's a reason that you have skills and you've been skilled at this many, many times over. And that's a portal for you. And even more is those people that you know from past lives that you recognize. And if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, and you don't really have those experiences yet, but you're here today listening to this, just I invite you to pay attention, to be aware of as your higher self taps you on the shoulder and says, that's your mother. That's your brother. That's your aunt. That's your, you know, whatever it is. So it's this beautiful, beautiful reconnection. And it just makes it just delightful to be here. There's this tragic trauma, these grids here of just fear of death, fear of life, fear, fear, fear. And when we realize that we're more than just a body, we've been here several times over, you're like reacquainted, reunited with your unfuckable with ability, and that you don't really die, you're not really born, and you begin to walk in a different way. You begin to experience metaphysically this experience of life in a way that is different than you've been taught to experience it, most likely. If you had, you know, just the general upbringing, as many do. School of media is the truth of religion and all that stuff, of all the indoctrination. We start to bridge heaven on earth, which is always the point here at 4D Trinity. We start to bridge heaven on earth, turning on the heart, turning on the third eye, following the breadcrumb trail of truth in your heart, and making it so, and recognizing your brothers and your sisters, your relations, your family, because they're all here to help you. If you have a connection with people, there's a reason for it. Even if it's just that they see you and they honor you. That's like some of the biggest gifts that we can be seen. Some of the, you know, the biggest issues, all the therapies, all the psychologists, a lot of these people just don't feel that they've been seen. No one gets me. Right? My parents never supported me, or whatever all the things are. But it's like that you're not seen in your true power and authority and your true light and the true blessing that you are in this earth, that hasn't been nurtured and supported. And for so many of us, for some reason, that's a story, that's a thing. And our past life recognitions, those people who see you, who get you, who are like, let yourself, receive it. And what does that do to you? It brings you into a further and further knowingness, a further and further, for me personally, excitement for being alive. And shoot, man, I want to be excited to be here. Now that I realize that I'm here, I'm so happy and grateful to be excited to be here. For the first 40-something years of my life, this was hell on earth, and now I'm living heaven on earth. And it's a complete 180 or 360, however you would say that. It's all new timelines. It's all new quantum realities. There's an eternal, infinite amount of love and potentials to experience here with my family, right? With all those relations that I don't recognize as my family or my brothers or my sisters or whatever it is. But to know that I got some peeps here. You got peeps here. And you've been here before. Maybe, if it resonates with you. And you have superpowers. Your superpowers are all those crafts and all that healing and all that accumulation of all that amazing stuff that you've done and that you've been and you've embodied as an animal, as an insect, as a human, in many different cultures, learning many different languages. All that stuff, right? You've forgotten it, maybe, but it's there. It's there. It's with you. And there's wisdom. So again, the next time you sit and you meditate, the next time you sit and you paint, the next time you sit and you work on that business project or whatever it is, you can call in all those parts of you from your past life that are in service to the vision or to the work that you're doing now, whether it's a painting or to that meditation you're just simply sitting with on that day. Whatever it be, call in those parts of self. Acknowledge them, thank them. And as if you can bring all those parts of you that you've been through all time and space together, all the best bits, right? Like the top hits of you, right? Bring them, strengthen and connect them. And all that needs to happen for that to happen is for you to recognize it and to allow it to be so. It's given the right of way. Those dots connect and then boom, you've got super duper powers. Because you're not just the one you that you think you are in this life, but all of a sudden you become calibrated with all those powers that you have amassed. And when I say power, we're really talking about love. It's not about control or greed. Powers being your ability to mystically quantify your truth in any time and space, in any dimension you may find yourself in. I'm going to leave you with one story. So, years ago, as you know or may not know, I sang in a band called 69 Nova in New York for years, and we rocked it. I had dreadlocks. The guys all had big hair and really loud guitars, and it was awesome. And we all headbanged. We all totally headbanged on stage like there was no tomorrow. And it was some of the best times of my life. So we have this gig. I think it was out in Long Island. It was like not our normal New York City kind of place. But we had like a big crowd there. And I remember going like, whoa, I thought sometimes when you play those out of city and you're not where your local peeps would come, you'd be like, oh, maybe 5 or 6, I don't know, maybe 10 people, who knows if they might show up, the locals. But there was like a lot of people there. And I was thinking, oh my God. And I remember that night, I had smoked, right? And you know, right, if you watch this, if you follow me, that I enjoy a sagerette, which is organic tobacco, crushed sage, rolled in a thin cigarette paper with a filter. That's how I roll. And that night, for some reason, I was starting to get nervous, and I started smoking a lot of sagerettes before the show, and that's something I would never do. I would never, the only alcohol I would drink would be like a glass, maybe a pint of Guinness, because it was okay. It was easy on the vocal cords. And if I was going to smoke anything at all, I would never smoke before singing. I could roll a sagerette after the gig. But for some reason on this night, I'm like nervous, and I start smoking all this tobacco, these sagerettes. And I know that as I'm doing it, I'm going like, this is not going to be good. And there's this huge crowd. And so I remember I had to like put the sagerette out, and 5 minutes before stage, I go outside and I find this shop door. You know, the shop was closed, but like this inlet, I forget what you call it. And I kind of curled myself up in there. And I took a breath and I said a prayer, and I called on all of the parts of me that have ever like just really kicked ass singing, right? At all the gigs I had ever done through all time and space, I called in the collective of all those parts of me to sing through me for that night, because I felt wobbly. I felt like, uh-oh, I've overdone it. I feel like I don't know if I have the elasticity in my voice to really wail what I need to do for the show tonight. The energy's electric, but physically I'm feeling like I shouldn't have smoked all those cigarettes. Point blank, right? I called in all those parts. And even beyond that, called in any and every version of myself through all past lives that has ever been a singer. And not only that has ever been a singer, but that has ever like wailed it and hit those notes and enjoyed it and loved it and channeled like the voice that is my voice, but that is beyond my voice. All those parts of me through all time and space I called in. And don't you know, it was a rockin' show. And it bridged that reality. So you have superpowers. Your past lives are portals. Who you've been in the past has power, has potential, has energy, has information for you. Just like how I told you that all these threads of me, I'm like, oh, I think I'm a writer. Oh, wait, I am an author. Oh, wait, this is totally my destiny. This is totally what I do, to the point where I'm like, I totally get it. Every time I come here, it has something to do with the sacred text, with writing, with being an author, with scribing, right? And then we think, well, how does that have anything to do with being an insect or a horse? Well, one thing I do know is that even before all these things had kind of marinated and connected all those dots together, that way back in the day when I knew that I had been up here before as a whale, as a humpback whale specifically, and more than one time, and I just know that, and I just knew that. And then later, as all those dots connect, and I'm like, oh, let me follow this breadcrumb trail, animal totem, whale. What is this about? And then realizing that it's the record keeper, the library, for the grid, basically. For all experience, all knowledge. The whale is like the Akashic records, but even more than that. That carries the records of all time and space since time began for this planet. So I'm like, of course, this affinity with the grid, this affinity with these sacred texts and teachings and my part in it. I pray and I affirm that everything we share here fully and totally serves you, and that even if you just got a little bit from this, you know, may it really serve you in the mystery of you, in exploring and unraveling the beautiful, beautiful light that you are, and bring you into a further calibration of excitement for being alive, and excitement that this platform of this 3D is here, that you can eat your peaches and tap your tap dance and sing or make love or kiss or cook that good meal or you know, make those nice paintings or write those great books or build those beautiful structures as an architect or heal animals as a veterinarian, you know, whatever your thing is. It's like, wow, we realize that there's a much greater expanse at work here, and that you are naturally a part of it. And so as we go into our meditations in this next week and sit with these ideas and just be with this awareness, you know, may it serve you as you recognize and realize those people that are in your life, in your business, in your creative endeavors, your friends, people in school, people at work, you know, people that hold the door open for you, that see you, that get you. What are the chances that they know you from before? They got your back. And that's what happens, though, is that when you start to show up in your fullness, this is, okay, this is the thing to take home. I think I've given you one or two things, but this is the thing that I have learned, is that especially when we start to live in truth, the layers of the pain, the layers of the past, and we heal our lives, we come into that greater space of the heart where then we can just relax and have and enjoy life instead of it being like hell and being a victim and like everything is out to get you, etc. When we can just finally be here and be okay with this body, whatever it is, and be cool with the world, whatever it seems to be. And we're just like here doing our thing. And as we align ourselves with the truth in our hearts and really be that thing, be that version of self, the self with the big S, that's when your past life peeps. Doot, doot, doot. They see you because we see each other in our truth. We see each other in our truth. That's how we recognize each other, my brothers and sisters, my family. So the more that you turn on your truth, the more your peeps are going to be like, boop, boop, boop. And the more they're going to be like, oh, yes, you're the writer. Oh, you're the artist. Oh, you're the dancer. And I just happen to be, every time I come to this planet, the holder of space and containers for individuals like you to bridge heaven on earth, to hold space for that in the world. So here's this container that I offer you in which to do your tap dance, or in which to have your museum, or in which to display your book, or in which to share your teachings, or here's the stage, or here's the opportunity, or here's the door to meet this person that can help further bring greater possibility into your life. You see, we are so interconnected, if that's how you want to see things. And it's so exciting to me. I mean, think about your family. Who do you know? You know. You know if you know. If you don't know, okay. But if you know, like, who do you know? Your immediate closest 5 or 6, or I don't know if it's a bigger family, 10 or something, people between an aunt and a grandma and a mom and a dad or a brother and a sister, like, you know, who do you know from before? I know my mom from before. I know my uncle from before. I don't recognize necessarily my grandmother, my biological father, or my stepfather from before. But I recognize my sisters, and I recognize, as I was saying, a handful of you. And many, many others. And I guess in leaving here, I'll just honor my sons. Is that, you know, it's a healing. When we recognize these past life connections, the portals, you know, portal is just, it's a mystical gateway that we can go through that has information for us on the other side, that we can either take or not. We can either receive it or not. There's no force of will. You get to exercise what you know, what is true to you. Yet I know, as I, like in my book, recognize that I got sons here, it totally changed the polarity that I walked with towards men. It softened my heart. And so instead of everywhere I went in the past thinking that this man is going to hurt me or wants to hurt me or harm me, and so projecting that judgment out into everywhere I went in the world, then I had this like other reality where I was like, well, wait, what if they're my son? And that's like a whole different, that softened those hard edges that I had began to really walk with in my life for many, 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 many years. And so a healing happened. That portal created a healing. And from that portal then, like recognizing undeniably, there's a handful of men in this life where I know, and I've told them. The relationship is such where I have told them. And it doesn't matter. Again, if they're like, yep, I totally get it too, or if they're like, you crazy lady, or if they're like, no, it doesn't, if it's a no to them, because to me, again, it's what it does for you on your side of the court, on your side of the fence, what it does for you in your magical, mystical portal of calibrating you to be the fullest version of you, to experience again the exquisite excitement, the mystical potential of all, of why you're even here, honey, of why we're here together. So I honor I honor my sons, and I don't have children in this life, and I don't want to. Thank you very much. And I tell you though, it's so cool. I feel like I've been here so many times before and I've had so many children and I'm like over it. In this life, I'm like, I get a free pass around the go. I get to collect my 200 and it's not child welfare. I do not have to. Okay, that's a joke. But do you know what I mean? Like I don't need to do that in this lifetime around. I've already had children over and over and over again. And so I get to just do this thing that I'm doing here in this life, but then realizing and recognizing, and yes, I recognize my daughters too. Yet for some reason in this life, there's an extra closeness that I have with the sonship, and perhaps later years in my life, the daughtership, right? That will feel even closer and come up. Yet for me, what has been very powerful and potential is the recognizing of the sons of mine from past lives in this life now. And the mystical certainty it gives me in knowing that we are multidimensional, that we've been here before, that we got this, we got each other. So I thank you. Thank you for hanging out this morning. I thank you for your presence. And as always, I pray and I affirm that even if there's just a little nugget here today, that you get what you came here for, and that it helps you on your spiritual exploration. So many conversations and so much language. And what we're doing is we're building a language of light, right? To remember ourselves and one another through and to. We learn to not fear the light. We learn to live in the light, to see in the light, to bathe in the light, to breathe in the light. And so bridge heaven on earth. So thank you, everyone. If you are not on my mailing list, you can join by going to my website, tuesdaymaythomas.com. All of my links are in the show more box below. When you subscribe at my website, you'll receive my monthly love letter. Check your socials, your junk mail, your promos. You also receive a free copy of my mini ebook, The Higher Self. The Higher Self is also available at iBooks for free download, as is my book, The NOWOSPHERE, which is also free download. It's a mini book. The NOWOSPHERE is also free on Kindle. And I have my other books, which you can purchase, How to Manifest with the Law of Vibration, and of course, The REIKI Apprentice. It is such an honor and a gift to be here. I bless this platform, and I thank you for writing with me today. As I mentioned at the beginning, there were no notes. There was no preparing for today's show. We was just really shooting from the hip. So thank you for hanging out and jumping on with me. I'm so very grateful. I bless you, and I thank you so much. Thank you for holding space for me as I hold space for you too. Namaste with so much love. Blessings.